On her birthday, she saw him kiss his ex. She divorced, married her CEO Suitor. He went mad with regret. Celeste Carter's day began where every day for the last 7 years had begun. Beneath fluorescent halos in Atlanta, General's OR5, a place that smelled equally of sterile iodine and desperate hope. She was threading a 5-0 proline suture through the final layer of a 7-hour pediatric liver reconstruction when the heart rate monitor hiccuped. One beat fluttered too fast, another tripped over itself like a child on untied laces. The circulating nurse tensed, but Celeste lifted a gloved hand, steady, deliberate, and pressed 2 fingers to the tiny patient's carotid. The rhythm returned, compliant. That composure, equal parts science and stoicism, was the currency Celeste traded. Every shift she tucked strangers' pain inside professional protocols, piling them neatly behind her sternum where they hummed like caged bees. Yet back of mind, beneath latex and protocol, other pain waited. Words from the night before, still burning like antiseptic in an open wound. Keep reading. The next 3 minutes decide whether the child ever meets kindergarten and whether Celeste finally stops suturing wounds that aren't hers. The incision closed. Celeste stripped gloves, snapped mask, and delivered concise report to recovery team. While she scrubbed out, her phone buzzed against locker metal. She ignored it until hands were defoamed and silver chain with caduceus pendant reaffixed around her neck. Only then did she glance at the screen. Darius. The name flashed like a flatline alarm. She silenced the call, but voicemail auto-transcribed, "We need to talk." Don't throw away years because of one misunderstanding. Misunderstanding. The word sliced deeper than any scalpel on her tray. She pictured the misunderstanding exactly. Darius's mouth pressed to another woman's collarbone under dim lounge lighting. His laugh low. His words slurred enough for honesty. "Celeste is lucky I put up with her background." She'd stood frozen. Coat still buttoned from night shift, heart clenching like forced fist. 10 minutes later, she walked away unannounced, as if leaving a silent auction where the only item for bid was her self-respect. Her pager pinged, pediatric ICU consult, but another screen lit up beside it, Dr. Gideon Lewis. Heard you covered Rivera case. Espresso on me if you survive charts, Gideon. Quietly brilliant tech founder turned health data philanthropist, high school classmate who'd coded science fair apps while she memorized anatomy flashcards. He'd appeared 6 months ago donating AI imaging suites to the hospital, his demeanor as understated as his black sweater uniform. Where Darius practiced performative charm, Gideon offered deliberate presence. Celeste typed back, "Charts will be my epitaph, but espresso accepted." Before she remembered, she no longer owed deference to Darius's jealousy. Freedom flickered nervous like a fledgling testing wings on inhospitable wind. Charts waited. So did OR turnovers. But beneath antiseptic smell lay echo of club cologne and whispered insult. Celeste inhaled recycled OR air, steeled spine, and thought. Some arteries clot, some relationships hemorrhage. When Celeste exited Atlanta General at dusk, the February air cut sharper than any microtome blade. Neon from the trauma bay reflected in puddles like open circuitry. She almost missed the champagne-colored Tesla idling by the curb. The window eased down, revealing her mother, Lorraine Carter. Pressed suit, even sharper cheekbones, eyes that catalogued flaws the way pathologists logged anomalies. "Dinner," Lorraine commanded, not invitation, diagnosis. Celeste obliged, sliding into heated seats smelling of expensive leather and faint rosewater. They drove past sweet auburn murals, past rapid transit hum to Agnes and Etta's, a low-country fusion spot where Lorraine had once whispered Celeste finally belonged after med school graduation. Over she-crab soup, Lorraine launched assault masked as concern. "I spoke with Darius." Silver spoon tapped china once, gavel in miniature. Celeste's pulse bumped. "He admitted foolishness," Lorraine continued, "but men's stray baby? Good lineage doesn't lineage." The word lodged splinter sharp. Celeste's father had disappeared before her first birthday. Lorraine wore that shame like a hairline crack under porcelain glaze, visible only when light hit wrong. Celeste folded napkin with surgical precision. Mom, his foolishness is chronic. Lorraine sighed, calculation clouding eyes. You know, residency is a poor season for dating. Darius offers stability. Celeste pictured Darius's manicured hand at woman's waist, remembered his hissed critique. You can dress a foster girl in Chanel, but she'll still smell like discount mart. Her stomach tightened. I have stability, Celeste said, voice mellow yet diamond-edged. Scrubs and student loans. Lorraine leaned in, tone sweetened with arsenic. Hospitals won't hug you at night. Celeste's throat constricted. She heard ventilator alarms, smelled betadine, felt phantom weight of child's tiny liver. No, she replied, but they don't call me inferior. Lorraine's mask slipped a degree. Think bigger than pride, she urged. Celeste rose. Pride is sterile field. Contaminate it and everything dies. She dropped enough bills to cover soup, exited into cold night where breath fogged into temporary ghosts. She texted Gideon, rain check on espresso? Downtown rooftop, maybe, he replied instantly. Already there for drone demo. Elevator code 417, spontaneity used to terrify her. Now it felt like lidocaine under a long needle. 10 minutes later, glass elevator lifted her to Midtown skyline. She stepped into rooftop greenhouse lit with drones testing AI-guided pollination. Gideon waved beside a hydroponic basil wall. Still caffeinated? He asked, handing a paper cup. Steam curled, smelling of cardamom, coincidence or providence. She told him condensed version. Cheating. Classist slur. Maternal pressure. Gideon didn't interrupt. Didn't sermonize. He simply adjusted a nozzle on drone and said, maple trees flourish because helicopter seeds ride storms. He glanced at her ID badge. You've weathered worse than words. Celeste felt throat ache, a different pain like compressed spring releasing. She sipped espresso, warmth spreading through rib cage's brittleness. Drone passed overhead, scattering micropollen that glimmered like tiny comets. Symbolism wrote itself, growth driven by gentle spinning blades rather than blunt force. Gideon asked about Rivera case. Celeste animated, describing vascular anomalies. She realized no man had ever admired her medical vernacular without ulterior boast. Gideon simply listened, eyes keen, file-syncing passion to respect. Mid-conversation, thunder rolled, storm crouched beyond city lights. Gideon offered umbrella escort to parking deck. As they reached stairwell, Celeste's phone buzzed. Unknown number, but instinct told her Darius. She rejected call. Umbrella ribs crackled. Rain hammered translucent dome overhead like frantic applause. Gideon's sleeve brushed hers, accidental yet steadfast. In that watery percussion, Celeste recognized relief, being seen without evaluation rubric. At home, she found bouquet outside apartment door, white lilies, card reading forgiveness is the practiced art of greatness. D. She left flowers for building janitor, tossed card into compost chute. Inside, she hung coat, open laptop, drafted email to hospital board requesting day off in 2 weeks. Subject line, personal boundary maintenance. She felt pulse steady. Morning pre-rounds brought new curve. OR Chief Dr. LeBlanc summoned Celeste. In office smelling of burnt coffee and paper spines, he waved a glossy donor gala photo. Celeste and Gideon laughing under rooftop greenhouse. Rumor says you're dating our new imaging benefactor, he said. Administration cautions optics of impropriety. Celeste's chest went tight, scalpel facing mirror now. She explained nothing formal. LeBlanc nodded but warned hospital politics feed on gossip. In scrub room later, she overheard nurse gossip. Guess who traded up from trust fund fiancé to billionaire tech bay? Celeste felt shards twist near heart. She had fought to define herself beyond orphan narrative. Now whispers pinned her to yet another man's shadow. During appendectomy, her hands remained precise, but forearms burned cold. She realized Darius's poison could mutate, Jealousy sharpened by social conjecture might jeopardize hospital grants, her surgical seat, maybe Gideon's philanthropy. FOMO effect clicked. Would colleagues, board donors, believe she ladder climbed by stethoscope and stilettos? She finished closure, removed gloves, and texted Gideon, "Dinner. Need strategy." He suggested the Big Mama's house Friday, family catfish night. Big Mama, matriarch who once told Gideon, "Wisdom don't shout, it simmers." Celeste drove post-shift to Children's Oncology Ward where she volunteered nights reading Where the Wild Things Are. She found Naomi, 8-year-old awaiting transplant, watching cartoons. Celeste noticed unpaid lab bill on side table. Insurance denial. She snapped photo for follow-up. Charity fund low this quarter. Gideon's earlier anonymous donations flickered memory. Maybe he could help again, yet fear of perception nipped. She resolved to find Grant alone. Elevator ride down, she encountered Darius leaning against chrome rail, suit immaculate. He smiled as though last week never burned. "Hospital PR caught wind," he said. "They asked if I'd comment." Celeste pressed elevator close. Darius continued. Gideon Lewis, quiet, but his money's loud. Board might question impartiality. He brushed non-existent lint from lapel, voice syrupy. "Clean break, Celeste?" "Come back." An optics restored elevator chimed ground floor. Celeste stepped out, turned. "Optics don't heal children," she said. "Nor do cowards." Darius's grin faltered. Elevator doors shut. Outside, parking lot wind scattered early cherry blossom petals like confetti torn from apology notes. Celeste inhaled night, felt internal scalpel aligned with spine, ready to excise one last tumor, public narrative. Driving home, she laid plan 1, salvage oncology fund without Gideon bailout to prove autonomy. 2, attend Big Mama's dinner, not as rescue but equal. 3, craft press statement on surgeon-philanthropist collaboration built on transparent grants. Back inside apartment, she opened Naomi's file, drafted grant proposal to Southeastern Surgical Society Emergency Fund. While uploading forms, email pinged. Subject, "We know where you came from." Body, scanned copy of her late father's arrest record, watermarked anonymous. Threat implicit, air out origins, tarnish surgical hero halo. Stomach knotted, old shame resurfaced like submerged rib. She closed laptop, paced living room, heart galloping, then she caught reflection in balcony glass. Woman in green scrubs spattered with success and fatigue, haloed by city lights. She whispered aloud, "Origin is not infection." The phrase steadied breath. She reopened laptop, forwarded arrest record to herself, CC'd Gideon with note, blackmail attempt, proof of Darius, unknown. Then she attached father's record to grant proposal as ethics disclosure, preemptive honesty. At 2 a.m., Gideon responded, "Proud of you." Big Mama says dark roots feed brightest blossoms. Friday catfish stands. Celeste smiled, closed lid. Outside, sirens wail distant, yet somehow reassuring, like nocturnal sentinel promising dawn. She crawled into bed, exhaustion heavy but mind alive. Chapter 1 of her new life had just snapped into scalpel light, and first cut, though painful, was clean. Celeste's phone woke her at 4:17 a.m., Atlanta time, an hour normally reserved for emergent splenic ruptures or premature dawn prayers from sleepy residents. Instead, the glow revealed a single attachment, a PDF splashed with county jail watermarks and her father's mugshot from 1993. The subject line simply read, "Your heroine, unmasked." No salutation, no threat, just a long, dormant ghost hurled like a brick through her digital window. At first, the screen blurred. She thought she'd torn a cornea. Then she realized tears made the image ripple, distorting her father's face until he resembled both stranger and kin. For 20 years, she had folded that arrest in tight origami, non-violent check fraud, a desperate attempt to keep the lights on after Celeste's mother lost a housekeeping job. He served 9 months. vanished soon after release. Lorraine called him our cautionary tale and insisted Celeste never mention his name at scholarship interviews. Celeste wiped her eyes. Hitting reply all would satisfy whoever lurked behind the burner account, so instead she forwarded the message to Gideon with the subject, "Another shard." She closed the phone, tried to inhale, but the bedroom air felt like it belonged to someone else's lungs, so she dressed in scrubs an hour early, left for morning rounds. Rain battered the ER canopy, each drop a miniature gavel. While signing into the OR board, she felt a sudden hush, the way an audience hushes moments before a verdict. 2 surgical interns stood by the coffee urn whispering over their own phones. One blinked, realized Celeste was within earshot, looked away too late. A Reddit thread, already over 200 comments, featured the same mugshot PDF with a headline, "Top Atlanta Surgeon's Criminal Bloodline." Celeste swallowed a shard of ice. Her father's mistake now pinned to her chest like a name tag. The anonymity of the email suggested Darius, but the Reddit leak meant someone beyond him. Perhaps a gossip blogger he'd paid, perhaps nobody at all. Just virality doing what it does. She headed to the pediatric wing, and for 2 blessed hours, clamps, forceps, and neonatal intubation tubes drowned out memory. At lunch, she found Naomi's mother in the family lounge, phone in trembling hand. "Dr. Carter," the woman whispered, eyes glossy. "Is it true?" "They say administration will suspend your privileges." Celeste knelt until they were eye level. "Privileges are intact," she said. "Naomi's care won't change." The mother nodded, relief mingled with fear. Celeste straightened and almost collided with Dr. LeBlanc. He pulled her into an alcove between linen carts. His voice remained professional but clipped. "Board wants a response before press inquires." "Tell them it's malicious fabrication." "It isn't," Celeste answered, calm, surprising even herself. "But it isn't mine either." LeBlanc's nose twitched, metaphorical scalpel waiting. "Then get ahead of it," he said and walked away. Celeste texted Gideon, "Board. Meeting 1700, need receipts." His reply came seconds later. "On it. Trust the foundations we already poured." By late afternoon, the rain had cleared, but humidity clung like second scrubs. Celeste parked outside Gideon's family home, a wide craftsman on sweet Auburn whose porch lights always glowed warm honey. As she climbed the steps, she smelled catfish frying in peanut oil and a note of sage. Big Mama met her at the door, wiping hands on apron-embroidered GRACEISSEASONING. "Child, you look like midnight service without the hymns," Big Mama said, guiding Celeste inside. On a side table sat a manila folder thick enough to choke a shredder. Gideon emerged from the study with Aunt Lisa behind him. They'd prepared a forensic timeline that mapped the mugshot leak to a server linked to an LLC registered to Darius's fraternity brother. "We traced metadata through a hastily spun AWS bucket," Gideon said, tapping screenshots. "Blatant defamation." Aunt Lisa, decades in corporate compliance, had drafted an affidavit for the hospital board and a cease and desist for the blogger. Celeste scanned the documents, adrenaline ebbing, replaced by something softer. She realized Gideon had spent his entire afternoon not just protecting her name, but preserving her capacity to save children tomorrow morning. Big Mama ladled catfish gumbo into bowls, insisted they eat before meetings. Celeste took one spoonful. The warmth slid down and seemed to patch cracks invisible to X-ray. Mid-meal, Lorraine called. Celeste let it go to voicemail, but Big Mama's brow arched. "Sometimes thunder comes from the next county," she said. "Doesn't mean you need to chase it." At 5 p.m., sharp Celeste and Gideon walked into the hospital's walnut-paneled boardroom. 10 directors lined the U-shaped table. At its center, Dr. LeBlanc and the chief legal counsel. A projector displayed the mugshot headline. The counsel began. "Dr. Carter, the institution values transparency. Please clarify." Celeste set down Gideon's folder, hand steady. "The arrest is authentic. My father made an error born of poverty, not malice. I disclose it now the same way I disclose every surgical variable. Openly." She slid Gideon's metadata trace across the table. The distribution, however, is malicious and traceable to an outside actor attempting personal revenge. Affidavits inside a hush swelled. One director skimmed the technical appendix, eyebrows rising. Another murmured, "Chain of custody looks ironclad." LeBlanc pivoted. "Our concern is public optics." Celeste met his gaze. "This hospital mends wounds from every zip code. If my origin story threatens donors, perhaps donors need surgery too." Gideon did not speak. His silence was scaffolding. She didn't know she needed. After deliberation, the board chair declared, "Credentials stand. Will issue statement condemning smear tactics. Relief, quick and bright, flooded Celeste's limbs." Outside the boardroom, Darius waited, suit impeccable, smile predatory. "They kept you?" he asked, feigned surprise. Celeste stepped closer, voice low. "Your father's trust fund can't buy what I just earned." Darius's grin cracked. Gideon positioned himself subtly beside her, shield, not savior. Darius flicked gaze at Gideon. "Enjoy the fallout." Internet never sleeps. Then he retreated down marble corridor, echoing footsteps like spent rounds. Celeste exhaled. Gideon touched her elbow. "Next storm?" he asked. She shook head. "Next shift." Overnight Reddit threads quieted. The board's denial pinned to top of hospital's social feed, but blackmailers mutate. The next morning, a fake GoFundMe appeared. "Help Naomi beat cancer, doctor." Carter's patient. It used Naomi's photo, banked on public sympathy, and claimed Celeste's negligence delayed a transplant. The fundraiser had raised $12,000 in 6 hours. Celeste's throat closed with rage. This slander now siphoned hope directly from a sick child. She notified hospital legal, sent report to GoFundMe. Gideon's cybersecurity team seized domain logs. Same frat brother IP. But donations came from innocent strangers. Refunding them risked trust backlash. Gideon proposed an offensive pivot, match every fraudulent dollar with real money into Naomi's official fund, announced widely with receipts. Celeste hesitated. Optics again? But she envisioned Naomi's frail smile and nodded. 2 tweets later, one from Gideon's verified account, one from hospital. #RealHope Naomi trended top 10 Atlanta. Donations skyrocketed to $150,000 overnight. GoFundMe shuttered the fake page, rerouted contributions. Public sentiment flipped. Darius's last card now a boomerang slicing only his palm. Lorraine finally cornered Celeste in hospital atrium. Her eyes darted to reporters filming new story. "You embarrassed Darius's family," she hissed. Celeste, exhaustion and adrenaline coiled tight, answered evenly. "And they tried to bankrupt a child's future to spite me." Lorraine's lips parted. No retort surfaced. Gideon appeared, carrying 2 coffees, handed one to Lorraine without fanfare. "We honor her roots here," he said. Lorraine accepted cup, confused as if hospitality were foreign currency. There, between Starbucks steam and antiseptic gloss, Celeste sensed tectonic plates shift. Her mother's narrative cracking but not yet crumbling. 2 nights later, Big Mama hosted impromptu porch gathering. String lights glowed, cicadas droned like distant applause. Aunt Lisa unfurled folding chairs. Neighbors drifted in with pound cake and sweet tea. An informal press conference by people who didn't need microphones. Big Mama clasped Celeste's hand, raised it like champion boxer. "Round ain't over, but this child fights fair," she declared. The crowd responded with hums of agreement, thunder diluted into community hymn. Darius drove by slow, his coupe's headlights sweeping faces. Big Mama met his gaze, chin lifted, porch light blazing behind her like lighthouse daring the storm. He accelerated, tail lights vanishing down Auburn Avenue where humidity swallowed anger. At midnight, Celeste and Gideon sat alone on porch steps. Fireflies stitched green embroidery into dark. She confessed fear. That next scandal might puncture vessel she'd patched. Gideon traced finger along her palm. A vessel repaired is often stronger at the weld. Then he hesitated, reached into pocket, produced small velvet box. Not ring, a vintage gold stethoscope pin. No rush, he said. Just anchor for when winds confuse horizon. Celeste's throat filled again, but this time with gratitude so keen it pricked tears. She pinned stethoscope to scrub pocket at sunrise rounds. Naomi's vitals held steady. Transplant committee fast-tracked listing, citing new fund cushion. Celeste squeezed the girl's hand. Naomi whispered, "Mom says heroes wear masks and ponytails." Celeste laughed, heart blooming. In lounge later, hospital monitor aired local news. Darius's company under SEC investigation for insider trading. Celeste watched without schadenfreude. Only quiet acceptance that some arteries clot themselves when tourniquets fail. As evening bled violet over Atlanta, Celeste returned to rooftop greenhouse where drones still guided pollen. Gideon adjusted a sensor, looked up. "Board of Governors Gala next month," he said. "Will you stand beside me?" Celeste thought of gossip, optics, lineage whispers. Then she remembered Big Mama's porch light illuminating shame into nothing. She met Gideon's steady gaze. "I'll stand where respect is soil," she answered. Below, streetlights blinked on, each a tiny surgical lamp over scars of city asphalt. Celeste inhaled humid air, tinged with basil, cardamom, and something new, maybe petrichor after thunder. She felt her chest swell, not with caged bees, but free-winged birds. Chapter 2. Closed not with scalpel click, but porch-light glow. Proof that every shadow needs contrast to confirm the brightness of the living. Tragedy never waits for schedules, but sometimes it rings first. The call that kicked Celeste's heart sideways came at 2:12 a.m. Doctor. Carter. Naomi Thompson's labs tanked. Bilirubin at 31. INR uncooperative, the resident blurted, voice crackling through sleep grit. Translation: acute liver failure triaged from urgent to catastrophic. Celeste was out of bed and halfway into scrubs before the resident finished listing enzyme numbers that read like a ticking time bomb. Down the highway, Atlanta's sodium lamps blurred into comet tails and Gideon's voice escaped her Bluetooth speaker. "I'm driving behind you." Eyes forward, heart steady. She hadn't asked him to follow, but she also hadn't asked him to stop. There was comfort in headlights trailing hers like guardian stars. At the pediatric ICU, Naomi breathed shallowly under fluorescent hush, skin taking on saffron hue no 8-year-old should wear. Her mother clutched Celeste's arm. They said transplant window shrunk. Celeste squeezed back, then pivoted into surgeon mode, issuing orders. Secure priority on the UNOS list. Prep for plasmapheresis while waiting. Run ammonium scavengers. A whir of activity spun outward like Hurricane Eyewall. She stood at its still center, pulse-thrumming metronome steady, yet feeling time's teeth. By 9 o'clock, Celeste had stared at donor registries until retinas burned. None matched size, antigens, geography. She called every contact from fellowship days. 12-hour viability if a liver appears, she told procurement teams. Will fly, drive, teleport. Hope felt like tissue paper in sudden rain. Back in the ICU, she found Gideon by Naomi's bed, whisper reading where the wild things are so quietly monitors almost drowned him. He wore hospital visitor scrubs, blue over black turtleneck, awkward elegance. Celeste raised brow. "Parents are resting," he murmured. "Max and the wild things keep her calm." Celeste's chest softened. Then monitor beep spike reminded urgency. At noon, news broke. Pediatric donor in Augusta, but cross-match shaky. Another candidate, older child in Alabama, claimed primary status. Celeste paced corridor while phone lit up. Board PR, ethics committee, procurement coordinator. She would not lobby. Protocol saves fairness. Yet Naomi's widening eyes replayed behind lids. Amid calls, Lorraine arrived unannounced, high heels clacking. "Press says you begged for special waiver," she accused. Fabricated headline courtesy of gossip blog. Celeste rubbed temples. "I'm working." Lorraine pressed. Hospital brand at stake. Darius texting apology. Celeste's restraint snapped thin. Mom, a child might die today. Status doesn't resuscitate. Lorraine flinched, mascara wide. Gideon appeared, quietly positioning himself but not shielding, a silent reminder Celeste was allowed to guard her own perimeter. Lorraine backed away, confusion diluting anger. Afternoon labs worsened. Naomi slipped toward hepatic coma. Conversation with transplant committee felt like negotiating with the tide. At 17:04, pager buzzed. Procurement from Alabama declined organ due to sepsis suspicion. Augusta liver now secondary. Celeste exhaled jagged relief, then sprinted into logistics. OR booked, jet prepped, surgical retrieval team launching. 23 minutes later, she led briefing. Naomi's vitals, surgical roadmap, risk specter, residents wide-eyed. Anesthesiologist Dr. Kwan stoic as granite. Gideon lingered at doorway. She caught his gaze, red mixture of pride and terror. You'll save her, he mouthed. She swallowed. Surgeons don't promise outcomes, only effort. At 21:17, the donor liver arrived packed in icy solution that smelled of metal and finality. Celeste scrubbed, adrenaline steady as IV drip. Overhead speakers played faint jazz, a nurse's playlist, and Celeste found unexpected solace in saxophone notes meandering through tension. Incision. Bleeders clamped. Diseased liver lifted, gelatinous sunset. Vena cava anastomosed to new graft. Time blurred into spool of silk sutures and perfusion measurements. At 2:46, hepatic artery pulse flicked crimson. The graft blushed, rosy lifeline. When final stitch landed at 3:10, Celeste allowed lungs full breath, shoulders trembling with suppressed quake. Outside OR, Naomi's mother collapsed into Celeste's arms, sobbing gratitude. Celeste held steady, but knees wobbled. 26-hour wakefulness weighed. Gideon waited with lukewarm coffee, eyes glassy. She leaned forehead to his shoulder. She's alive, she whispered. So are you, he said. 2 days later, Naomi opened her eyes, greeted Celeste with croaky, "Hi, Doc," and the ward erupted in relief. Hospital PR arranged tasteful press note. Surgeon overcomes online smear to deliver life-saving transplant. Celeste cringed at headline. Medicine isn't hero mythology. Gideon intercepted overzealous reporters, insisting patient privacy. Celeste saw him juggle media queries with investor calls, calm unflappability cracking only when she chuckled at his stern expression. "Quit teasing, I'm protecting brand integrity," he said, earning first laughter she'd felt in ages. Even victories reveal fissures. Celeste's pulse spiked nightly, a phantom pager in dreams. She'd wake sweating, sniffing phantom smell of cautery. Gideon noticed. Suggested counseling, offered to drive. She resisted. Saving kids meant carrying scars. He replied, "Scar tissue still needs massage to stay supple." She promised to try. Lorraine, curiously quiet since ICU blow-up, requested lunch at Agnes Anetta's again. Celeste accepted. Battlefields sometimes need revisiting. Lorraine arrived minus her usual armor, no suit jacket, minimal makeup. "I read Naomi's story," she began, voice softer. "You didn't apologize for background. You used it like roots." Celeste sipped water, waited. Lorraine clasped napkin. "I clung to status because shame is heavy. But you carried heavier and walked taller, tears formed, genuine." Celeste's throat constricted. Mother and daughter sat amidst clatter of silverware, forging first honest silence in years. Later that week, hospital hosted Foundation Gala in historic Fox Theater. Celeste donned midnight blue gown borrowed from Aunt Lisa, stethoscope pin gleaming like comet at neckline. Gideon wore charcoal tux, bowed slightly when meeting her at staircase. Paparazzi bulbs flashed, but Celeste's spine remained unbowed. She'd trained under worse light. Inside gilded ballroom, Darius lurked near bar, unshaven, tie askew. SEC probe cratered his social circle. He staggered toward Celeste. "Enjoy basking?" he sneered. Gideon intervened, not with fists, but with quiet statement. "Sir, tonight funds pediatric cardio." Let's not steal oxygen. Darius glared, but security escorted him out. Celeste's pulse barely blipped, old triggers now diffused. Keynote highlight arrived when Naomi's mother took stage, thanking donors. She singled out anonymous benefactor who'd covered early lab trials. Gideon, applause thundered. Celeste watched him shift, cheeks coloring. Crowd turned curious eyes, but Gideon simply bowed. Post-speech, Celeste cornered him by velvet curtain. Anonymous until now, she teased. He shrugged, gaze earnest. Kids beat code patents in ROI. She cupped his jaw, first public kiss, a soft exclamation mark after months of ellipses. Photographers snapped, but Celeste didn't flinch. Authenticity felt bulletproof. Late, as janitors folded tablecloths, Celeste and Gideon wandered stage wings. Fox Theater organ, left unattended, mouthed dusty notes. Gideon pressed a key. Eerie chord echoed. Celeste placed her hands atop his, playing random harmony. Two surgeons, one of bodies, one of data, making music in dim wings, laughing softly. From balcony above, Lorraine watched. Instead of disapproval, she smiled. Perhaps first-time pride unshackled by pedigree concerns. A week post-op, Naomi strolled hallway, clutching IV pole like parade baton. Celeste trailed behind, tears threatening. The girl would graduate from juice boxes to high school lockers now. Miracle built on teamwork and midnight marrow. Paperwork mountain awaited. So did psychotherapy intake Celeste booked quietly. She sat in counselor's office, fingers coiling stethoscope charm. Spoke of imposter syndrome, father's arrest, Darius's lacerations. Words bled, then clotted as therapist stitched self-compassion. Homework, write letter to younger self. That night she drafted, "Dear L-shaped knot of fear, you grew into surgeon hands steady enough to guide others home. You owe no apology for soil you sprouted from." She sealed letter into envelope labeled "for release on wedding day," whenever that is. She placed envelope inside Gideon's blueprint drawer. On Sunday, Big Mama's porch basked in Georgia sun, catfish aroma replaced by peach cobbler, family assembled. Even Lorraine brought sweet tea vodka. Gideon stood, cleared throat. "I once believed algorithms predict everything. Tonight I choose unpredictability." He knelt. Presented ring, carved with imprint of phoenix feather and circuit board. "Celeste, will you marry this quiet man who learns loud love?" Tears blurred porch light. Celeste laughed. "Yes, as long as honeymoon includes 8 hours sleep." Cheers erupted. Big Mama's clap sounded like cymbals. Yet Celeste insisted on one more stop before celebrations. Gideon drove them to Grady Memorial's Memorial Garden. There she planted second phoenix cutting, soil crumbling warm. She pressed Gideon's hand to sapling. "For every kid whose chart kept me upright," she whispered. Sunset kissed leaves crimson. As dusk deepened, phone buzzed. Private number. Celeste answered. SEC investigator confirming formal charges against Darius, plea likely. She ended call. Breathed deep. Pity surfaced. Sadness for man who never learned growth. She let pity float away. Firefly lost beyond porch light. Wedding set for autumn under sweet auburn oaks. Guestless small, or nurses, Big Mama choir, Naomi as flower girl. Press may poke, optics may swirl, but Celeste's compass set. Weeks later, Celeste walked riverfront alone. Storm distant, sky-streaked lavender. She dialed voicemail greeting. "Dr. Carter here. If you're calling about origins, you've reached solid ground." She smiled, ended call, and turned toward horizon where hospital windows glowed like constellations, each lit room a story she'd yet to stitch. By late August, Atlanta simmered like a cast-iron skillet that hadn't learned humility. The city's brick facades radiated stored heat long after sundown, and even the cicadas seemed to trill in lazy minor keys. Celeste Carter's calendar, however, pulsed in major triads of neon red, back-to-back liver resections, a surprise ER splenectomy, and hospital orientation lectures she'd been conscripted to lead for this year's interns. Between those blocks, she squeezed fittings for an ivory silk jumpsuit, modern bridal compromise, tasting sessions for the sweet auburn peach cobbler tower, and a looming sit-down with Gideon's most skeptical investors. At 5:27 a.m., Celeste hustled down the resident corridor with a clipboard in one hand, steaming travel mug in the other. She wore fresh N95 contours around her cheeks, signs of another night that traded REM for resection, and beneath the disposable gown hid a parchment-thin printout titled Lewis Carter Wedding Run of Show. Each tiny checkbox felt like a capillary, awaiting closure. The morning's first laceration came where she didn't expect it. Outside ICU Base 7, Naomi's mother waved her over, smiling, then whispered, "Reporters keep calling me for comments about your $1 million wedding. They say Gideon's firm lost funding, that you're marrying money that's evaporating." Celeste's gut twisted. Hospital gossip blogs had birthed fresh rumors. Gideon's company, Everwell Diagnostics, apparently faced VC unrest. She smoothed the worry behind a practiced nod. "Trust what you see, not what they sell," she told Naomi's mom. Rounds flowed smooth until pager shrilled for an emergent seatbelt injury. Celeste scrubbed, carved, sutured, autopilot wrapped in expertise, but distraction skimmed her periphery like alcohol fumes. She caught herself whispering suture counts twice. In the lounge afterward, Dr. Quinn handed her electrolytes. "Surgeons cannot double book thoughts," he chided, not unkindly. She nodded, guzzling lemon salt drink that tasted like regret and battery acid. At noon, she darted across town to Castleberry Hill's converted textile loft where wedding planner Desiree Hastings presided. The space smelled of eucalyptus and contract ink. Gideon joined via hologram-like telepresence from Everwell's boardroom, suit jacket draped over chair back. He was amid negotiation to renew funding lines after a biotech partner withdrew, spooked by online drama. Desiree displayed linen swatches and seating mock-ups. Celeste tried focusing while Gideon's muted feed revealed slides about burn rate and staged capital infusions. Her phone buzzed. Lorraine Carter. Celeste silenced it. Seconds later, another buzz. Darius Shaw. Voicemail transcript previewed. "I need you to know we both might be targets." She shoved phone face down. Halfway through dessert tasting, a junior planner burst in. "Media outside asks if wedding sponsors Bigo Capital after their scandal." Gideon's feed froze. Desiree eyed Celeste. "Do we postpone public details?" Celeste inhaled. She remembered Big Mama's porch declaration. Storms shrink under porch lights. "We double down on transparency," she said. "Release vendor lists, note every small business, no pay for play." Gideon's video unfroze. He grinned tiredly. "I'm in," he said, then clicked off to rejoin CFO grilling. As Celeste left the loft, phone finally snared her attention. Lorraine's voicemail turned confession. "I may have said too much to a gossip columnist. They offered donation to the church roof." Celeste's heart plummeted. Her mother selling speculation for shingles, and small betrayal but stung like brine in paper cut. Back at hospital, she confronted Lorraine, waiting near valet. "Mom, did you leak Gideon's investor issues?" Lorraine, eyes glossy, nodded. "They said it would be minor piece. I thought publicity could pressure Darius's family to see you better." Celeste exhaled ragged. "I don't need validation from people who call me illegitimate." Lorraine's face crumpled. "I just wanted you safe." Celeste whispered, "Safety isn't something you barter." She offered tired hug. Lorraine clung, tears wetting Celeste's scrubs. Forgiveness fluttered but didn't land. That night, Gideon showed up at Celeste's store carrying Thai food and printouts, investor term sheets dotted with red lines. "They'll stay on board," he said, "but want me to scale back charitable arm." Celeste slammed carton on counter. "They'll gut the heart to save the body?" Gideon's jaw clenched. "Or they think marrying a headline liability complicates IPO." He immediately regretted phrasing. Her eyes flashed. "Liability?" Silence swelled. Outside, humidity thickened. Thunder twitched. Finally, Gideon rubbed temples. "Poor choice of word. I meant media storm. I'd step away from Everwell before stepping away from you. Her anger softened but didn't vanish. She placed hand on his chest. We both chose transparency. Let's weather this, not amputate. They ate pad thai on balcony while lightning stitched sky, each flash illuminating two people who loved but hadn't mastered love's logistics. Next morning, Gideon faced Everwell's cap table assembly in sleek Buckhead high-rise. Celeste, post-night shift, sat in back row wearing blazer over scrubs, supportive presence plus real-time fact-checker. Lead investor Marley Coates, whose gleaming loafers probably cost more than Naomi's transplant meds, opened bluntly. Your PR circus jeopardizes Series C. Gideon countered with revenue curves, pilot hospital testimonials, and the unscripted value of surgeon insight, nodding towards Celeste. Some directors eyed her stethoscope pin as though it pulsed. Mid-presentation, Gideon cued Slade on Community Clinic Pilot. Suddenly, projector flickered. Slide replaced by screenshot from months-old smear blog featuring Celeste's father's mugshot and bold caption, "Can you trust code funded by crime?" Gasps. Marley slammed remote, demanded admin fix glitch. Gideon's nostrils flared. Celeste felt heat roil up throat. Somebody sabotaged deck. Gideon breathed, switched to manual talk track. That image is malicious fabrication aimed at silencing physicians of color. We lean into transparency, not recoil. He linked a hospital board-cleared statement. Some investors whispered, others thumbed phones. Marley frowned. Public markets less forgiving. Gideon answered, then we correct markets, not our mission. The room crackled, uncertain. Afterward, in corridor, Marley cornered Celeste. Your credentials admirable, but reputational risk real. Celeste locked gaze. Reputation built on algorithm should appreciate algorithmic proof. She slid him Gideon's forensic folder. Marley waved, but pocketed. On drive home, Celeste's phone rang. Naomi's mom ecstatic. Labs perfect. The universe's dual narrators sang hope and dread in duet. At traffic light, an old scalpel Celeste kept as lucky charm rattled off dashboard. Blade snapped. Omen. She binned it, thinking, retire blunt instruments. That evening she met Big Mama, Aunt Lisa, and Lorraine for Peace Summit. Big Mama set sweet tea pitchers, started grace. Lord, teach tongues to taste wisdom before wagging. Lorraine flushed. Celeste presented facts, investor sabotage, roof donation bribe. Lorraine blinked tears, apologized. Big Mama offered compromise. Fundraiser fish fry to fix church roof legitimately. Lorraine agreed, humility settling like quilt. Meanwhile, Gideon met Darius's cousin, Wesley Shaw, behind closed doors. Wesley, ex-frat brother, now penitent, confessed Darius hired social media mercenaries to crash Everwell deck. For price of immunity, Wesley gave flash drive of email trail. Gideon messaged Celeste. Proof in hand, relief prickled. They drove to lawyer to draft cease and desist and potential civil suit. Gideon paused. Hammering Darius might drag your mother back in headlines. Celeste stared at city lights. True. Let's file, but settle if he signs confession and funds Naomi's foundation. Gideon kissed her forehead. Compassion is your scalpel. September's first Saturday. Rehearsal at Sweet Auburn Oaks. Spanish moss swayed like murmured vows. Celeste stepped onto aisle wearing casual linen. Gideon waited under arch of phoenix roses blooming miraculously early, thanks to Aunt Lisa's hydroponic wizardry. Naomi, now rosy-cheeked, practiced tossing biodegradable confetti petals, giggling. Even Lorraine laughed, tension shedding like winter husk. Rehearsal dinner at Big Mama's backyard featured catfish sliders and Georgia peaches flambe. Marley Coates appeared uninvited, holding vanilla envelope. Gideon stiffened. Marley smiled. Rerunning due diligence. Values stand he produced revised term sheet, charitable arm untouched, Series C proceeding. Everwell's board had voted to expel holdouts. Pushing smear. Celeste exhaled thunder she'd secretly held. Later, under fairy-like canopy, Gideon handed Celeste a small velvet pouch. Inside, replacement scalpel charm cast in gold engraved with circuit pattern and phoenix feather. "For cuts you choose," he said. Tears welled. She gave him letter to her younger self, the one therapist urged, and asked him to read when he doubted worth. Storm clouds massed again, a single lightning bolt cracked sky, illuminating vines. Wedding planner fretted, but Celeste laughed. Let it rain. Roses need it, Big Mama proclaimed omen of fertile union. The day before ceremony, Darius's council signed settlement. Public apology video, donation to Naomi's fund, cease smears. Video posted, Darius admitting envy, seeking growth. Comments savage, yet Celeste felt pity transformed to neutrality, proving scar tissue supple. Wedding dawn arrived with cool front sweeping humidity away. Celeste stood before mirror in ivory jumpsuit, Lorraine fastening phoenix feather clasp. Mother whispered, Pride's new name is gratitude. In garden, Gideon awaited, sunlight filtering through oak leaves like stainless steel sparks on blue draped field. Vows exchanged referenced AI algorithms and hepatic arteries. Naomi delivered rings via drone Gideon coded. Crowd gasped as drone descended trailing petals. Big Mama blessed union with thunder soft voice. When officiant pronounced them, breeze stirred roses and distant thunder rumbled. Applause from storm survived. Reception band covered Stevie Wonder. Celeste danced with surgeons, tech nerds, and children whose charts she once held. Marley toasted, love as due diligence. Lorraine hugged Big Mama, two matriarchs sharing porch-light wisdom. Amid laughter, Gideon pulled Celeste aside under lantern. Investors want me in Silicon Valley twice a month, she smiled. Hospitals rotate out-of-state surgeons, too. We'll timestamp weekends. They sealed promise with kiss tasting of peach and possibility. Midnight fireworks bloomed. Phoenix roses reflected sparks. Celeste felt peaceful fatigue, like post-op when vitals stabilize and daylight teases scrub room blinds. She whispered, aftercare complete. Gideon answered, recovery lifelong. They locked fingers, pulse sinking. As guests departed, Big Mama pressed final advice. Love is suture that dissolves. What stays is the healed tissue. Celeste nodded, understanding at cellular level. They left in vintage convertible, rain-clean air, whipping veilless hair. Ahead, the city skyline glowed. Not threat, invitation. Celeste rested head on Gideon's shoulder, gold scalpel charm cool against her sternum. Behind hospital windows winked like distant constellations. She closed eyes, finally trusting horizons beyond operating lamps. Storms may circle, but she'd learned to hold steady lines and to lace them with rose roots deep enough to anchor any wind. Celeste Carter discovered that marriage to a man who toggled time zones felt like carrying two beating hearts in one chest. Monday through Wednesday, she commanded OR5 in Atlanta, suturing grafts and lecturing interns who scribbled every metaphor she muttered. Thursday pre-dawn, she bolted to Hartsfield-Jackson, scarfing yogurt at Gate E 23, while text-paging patient updates to Dr. Kwan. By noon Pacific, she materialized in Gideon's sleek Palo Alto condo, dropping her duffel beside a bouquet he'd programmed a robot to deliver exactly 6 minutes before her arrival. She loved the rhythm, until she didn't. 3 months into the bi-coastal shuffle, her left eyelid twitched like Morse code and the espresso scent she once adored began to nauseate. But Gideon's arms around her waist, murmuring, oxygen mask on first, Dr. Carter, recentered her pulse. He'd reserved Friday nights for sacred date blocks. No investors, no OR call, only ramen from a hole in the wall and rooftop stargazing where they hunted constellations shaped like stethoscopes and circuit boards. Everwell Diagnostics was sprinting toward IPO, and Gideon's board demanded his genius glow and Valley Press. Celeste, meanwhile, was now lead surgeon on a new trial for AI-assisted bile duct mapping, software coded by Everwell. Their lives braided more tightly than anastomosed vessels, but pressure hissed at every junction. Tension first cracked open on a red-eye back to Atlanta. Celeste slid out her laptop to finalize slides for an upcoming Grand Rounds talk, only to see Gideon's shared doc flagged urgent. She opened it. Proposal to relocate flagship AI trial to UCSF for visibility. It included her name as adjunct surgical consultant. Possible relocation. Her throat constricted. The plane's recirculated air felt like OR oxygen after power loss. Thin, metallic. She typed a terse comment. This is the first I'm hearing of relocation. No Wi-Fi mid-flight, so message hung unsent in drafts, pulsing resentment. Back in Atlanta dawn, she plunged straight into a 14-hour transplant. During closing sutures, her phone vibrated. Gideon's Face ID, their usual pre-shift check-in. She silenced it, hands gloved. But the silence between beats felt louder than suction tubing. That night, Gideon flew east for board meetings and found her asleep at dining table over grant forms. He carefully lifted her into bed. She stirred, muttered, "Adjunct consultant." He froze mid-tuck. In morning gray, they hashed jagged edges, Gideon confessing investor pressure, Celeste outlining her tether to Atlanta's underserved kids whom Everwell's tech promised to help here. Neither raised voices, but words lanced like 10-blade. Compromise remained anesthetized on tray. Friday afternoon, Big Mama called Celeste. "Baby, weddings birth new storms. Don't forget porch light covenant, see each other, not shadows." Celeste blinked tears and texted Gideon a simple porch light tonight. He replied with plain emoji, coming home. They met on Sweet Auburn steps at midnight, humidity thick enough to drape over arguments. Under porch bulbs, they talked until cicadas ceded to dawn birds. Gideon agreed to tell board Atlanta remained anchor. Celeste promised quarterly surgical demonstrations at UCSF to satisfy PR. Truce forged, not soldered. Jets and scalpels resumed, but eyelid twitch ceased. Winter crept early. Atlanta saw frost before Halloween. Celeste introduced the AI bile duct system in a live-streamed cholecystectomy before a panel of skeptical surgeons and Everwell investors. 10 minutes in, the overlay misregistered vessels. Algorithms froze. A cautious resident nearly clipped the common bile duct following ghost guidance. Celeste's voice sliced through commotion. Manual override. She deactivated visor, finished surgery by tactile memory and decades of training, but PR team paled. Post-op, Gideon flew overnight carrying debug logs like forensic x-rays. In her office, scrub cap still damp, Celeste watched him scour code. His shoulders sagged, error trace pointed to accelerated patch forced by VC timeline. "I signed off," Gideon murmured. "I let them rush." Celeste poured coffee. "Software glitches. Patience can't." Simple, but each word heavier than titanium retractor. Gideon promised full root cause review, halted further live demos. Investors fumed, stock simmered. Media sniffed blood. Aye, scalpel goes blind. Is Everwell ready? Hospital board scheduled emergency review of OI trial. Celeste prepared evidence that algorithm hiccup posed no patient harm, but rumor marinated. LeBlanc hinted trial suspension. Celeste's career and Everwell's stood on gurney about to roll off loading dock. On eve of review, Atlanta's water main burst near hospital. OR wing lost sterile supply lines. Administrative chaos. LeBlanc begged Celeste to coordinate triage surgeries at sister facility across town. She commandeered fleet of ambulances, transplant coolers, and panicked interns. Gideon, still in Atlanta debugging, offered logistic code to optimize OR allocations. She hesitated. Board meeting or patient lives? Decision instant. Patience. They worked 28 hours straight. Celeste cutting, suturing, Gideon routing supply drones, code patched into real-time manifest. The very AI, dismissed as unsafe, now calculated traffic to shave minutes off ischemia times. Local news aired chopper footage, drones buzzing waterlogged city lights transporting sterile packs under Gideon's remote command. Celeste leading gurney convoy like general of white-coated infantry. Board postponed review. Public saw heroics. Error narrative flipped. AI glitch ironically spares lives by forcing human-machine symphony. Investors cautious but intrigued. At dawn, Celeste slumped against ambulance bumper, scrubs blood-sprayed and rain-soaked. Gideon approached, eyes rimmed red. I rewrote patch, but your improvisation saved them. She shook head. Your drones landed supplies. They realized synergy wasn't slogan, it was survival algorithm. Later that week, board renewed trial with human override protocol Celeste authored. Investor Marley sent single-line email. Better story than any IPO roadshow. Stock upticked. Thanksgiving approached. Sweet Auburn prepared for joint family dinner. Big Mama's caramel cake, Aunt Lisa's mac and cheese, Lorraine's tentative candied yams. Gideon's California board scheduled final pre-IPO vote 2 days before feast. Celeste urged him to attend in person. She would manage call shifts. Their goodbye at airport lingered, air thick with foreboding. 6 hours later, Celeste scrubbed into Naomi's routine follow-up scope when her phone buzzed urgent SFO. Earthquake 6.2, flights grounded. Gideon safe but airport chaos, IPO vote uncertain. She finished scope clean, then ducked into break room. FaceTime rang. Gideon inside Everwell HQ building with hairline cracks on ceiling. Board scattered, servers down, vote stalled, he said. Sirens wailed behind him. Celeste's surgeon brain ticked triage. Disconnect from grid, company bigger than one date. Gideon nodded. But investors might bail if we miss window. She replied, Liv's Trump dates, remember Watermain? Reschedule remote aftershock. He blinked, exhaled. Copy that, Dr. Carter. Celeste finished her call shift, then drove to Big Mama's early to prep. News later, Everwell secured alternative remote vote. IPO delayed but not doomed. Gideon boarded red-eye Thanksgiving morning. Celeste waited at domestic arrivals, stethoscope pin glowing under terminal fluorescence. When he appeared, hair tousled, carry-on straps digging, they embraced wordlessly. Thanksgiving table overflowed. Kettle-steamed collards, data-driven stuffing. Aunt Lisa measured spice ratios. Gideon stood to toast. This year taught me algorithms need human fail-safes and hearts need porch lights. He raised glass to Big Mama, to Naomi, FaceTiming thanks, then to Celeste. My compass and calibration? Celeste responded with small smile and rested hand on her. Abdomen, nervous, hopeful. Only Lorraine caught gesture, eyes widening. After dessert, Celeste led Gideon to greenhouse. Frost-edged glass, but phoenix roses still flamed. She produced test strip. Faint second line. Gideon's breath caught. 2 hearts? She nodded, tears slipping. He laughed, sound equal parts joy and terror, and kissed her forehead. Our best collaboration yet. They sat on potting bench, palms on her stomach, listening to nothing and everything. Drip of hose, distant freight train, heartbeats imagined. Celeste whispered, Tide will rise. Gideon answered, We'll build higher ground. She replied, No, teach our child to swim. Outside greenhouse, porch light burned steady. Storms circled elsewhere, but within that glow, surgeons and algorithms, legacy and new life, all pulsed in cadence, no thunder necessary.